Planning Commission meeting of Monday, June 23rd to order. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Barnes.
Here.
Commissioner Bonney. Here. Commissioner Chorin.
Here.
Commissioner Hawley. Here. Commissioner Schaefer.
Here.
Commissioner Stoker.
Here.
Alderman Parrish.
Here.
Mayor Nervin.
Here. First up, we have approval of the minutes from May 19th.
Motion to approve.
Motion and a second. Any corrections or comments related to those minutes? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. First, we have two consent agenda items. One, a fill permit for 11506 North Shorecliff, and the other a condo plat for 11649 North Fort Washington Road. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I would like to,
Is there an item you would like to remove?
yes, please, 2A,
Okay, 2A, you'd like to remove?
for a question.
Okay, so we'll remove 2A and we'll take up item 2B.
Motion to approve 2B.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll now take up item 2A, applicant seeking a minor fill request. Minor approval for a fill permit to allow 1128 cubic yards of revetment at the base of the existing steep bluff. 11506 North Shorecliff. You have a question?
Yeah, I have
Mr. Barnes.
questions. I have no objection to what's presented. It all makes sense and appropriate, et cetera. But I'm coming from just family experience up on Lake Shore where there's trying to deal with bluffs. And what's understandable and can happen is neighbors getting together and, oh, are you doing this? We'll add, we'd like to do it on our own too and use your trail or whatever means of getting in and so forth. So I guess simply my question is in what way are we certain that we're only talking about the one parcel action that's presented here for the agenda item?
The agenda item, basically it's just the approval for that property only. There's no, our approval doesn't give approval to any adjacent properties for any work. So, this property owner has expressed that they're doing it only on their.
Yeah, I guess that's my concern is because on the spot, it can be neighbors. Oh, that makes sense. We should do that. And then it just on the spot continues. And so in what way is the city assuring that it's just?
Well, I think I can answer that. This property owner has decided it's in their best interest to stabilize their bluff to save their home. If their neighbor wants to do so, a year from now, 2 years from now, they'll come forward with their own request and we'll similarly consider and approve it. Are you suggesting we shouldn't be approving it because
No,
others might?
I guess it's my question is, how do we, the city, make sure that it's just the parcel that's presented that is done during the upcoming season or whatever it is, and it's not expanded to accommodate a neighbor or somebody that's 2 lots down
Right.
or whatever.
I do believe we inspect as completed, don't we, Jack?
Well, this is the revetment part, so there's DNR's involvement, so certainly.
Yeah, and we would require a kind of like an as-built drawing afterwards. So obviously if they're required to show what they did, and if they did something on someone else's property, I guess the other property owner would have to either get a permit with us, or if they did it without the permission of the neighbor, then they have to, that'd be kind of.
And I'm simply coming from experience with family on Lake Superior. Very same circumstance, and lots of lots got done through one property. It ended up happening that way. And that would be my concern. One.
Well, if that happens, it'll get dealt with the way it always gets dealt with. There'll be a complaint, we'll issue citations, and people have to pull permits and get it approved after the fact. Or if we don't find it's acceptable, we'll have to correct it. But I mean, that, I guess I don't want to hold up someone's application because someone might do something silly
It's
later.
part of my point
Yeah.
to bring attention to the city on monitoring or what have you. On that.
And who, I assume the DNR inspects after it's done. I mean, they usually take these things pretty seriously.
Yeah, they're supposed to inspect it afterward. That's what their permit says.
Okay.
So take that for what you will.
So some government official is supposed to inspect it. Okay. Maybe just not us. Commissioner Jordan.
I don't know if it's more of an engineering question or maybe DNR, but if this person is allowed to do this, and I have no problem with it, has there ever been any studies as to detrimental effect on the properties north or south?
I've gotten that question a lot. I don't know. I mean, they don't have to submit anything with this as part of a permit application like this, but I haven't seen any properties do adjacent property.
Yeah.
I'll interject there with a hard reality as well. When you get to the ordinary high water mark, Mequon's jurisdiction ends and the DNR begins. This is really a DNR thing. If it's got to be in the water to have a effect downstream or upstream, so the effect would be to the south because of the prevailing current in the lake. But
Yeah, you know, not too long ago, I think that was an issue brought up by people with Concordia, but
yes, it was, and that too is also the DNR's fault.
yeah,
Yep.
I'm not saying it has anything to do with the city, it's more or less curiosity. So, okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments on this item? Where's their motion?
I would move,
Go ahead.
I would move approval as per staff recommendations for this.
I will second.
Motion and a second. Any final comments? Hearing and seeing none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That item 2 is approved. On to a couple of public hearing items, public hearing / consent, but since they're public hearings, we'll have a public hearing about, we can have a public hearing about both of them, right, Jack?
I would do one, open and close the first one.
Oh, okay. So they're really like public hearing items, okay. First, David Abbott, the applicant is seeking the conditional use grant for an accessory dwelling unit for the property located at 12957 North Highgate Court. Is there a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there anyone here this evening that wishes to speak regarding this item? Here, oh, there's one, okay. Come on forward, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Eric and I was the architectural designer for the project. So just kind of summarize the project, it's a single family residence. The client has an aging mother who they want to live with them in the house, but have more independence as well. So it is a single family home that is designed to have almost 2 functions in it. One is an in-law suite that is fully serviced for her to kind of feel her independence. Accessible through the same garage, uses the same garage as the main primary residence. Shared laundry room for the 2 spaces. But again, it's just, she's in her 80s, so it's kind of just set up for her to have some privacy as well as some independence, but also kind of feel a little bit more secure with her family right there to help her out as she wants.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak on this item?
Motion to close public hearing.
Motion and a second. All those in favor of closing public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are back in regular session. We'll take up this item at this time. Are there any comments?
You can take the second public hearing and then vote on all for
Oh, well,
either way.
I'll vote on them now. So, well, it's fresh in everyone's head, just in case the other discussion on the other one. Is there a motion to approve item 3A?
Can I just ask one clarifying
Certainly.
question that I should have reached out to staff on before this? So the difference here, accessory dwelling unit versus the next item, right, which
So,
this allows, this is effectively, it's just another residence.
it's attached versus detached.
Can't be used for income generation, can't, like, there's other qualifications,
Right.
but
Yeah, the difference between this one and the next one, this one has to be attached, this
Yeah.
other one is detached.
Yeah.
Now it can't have a full-time person staying, it's a temporary stay.
no kitchen. Maybe pizza.
Maybe warming.
The 230 degrees.
100, I think. It was something, okay. Just because I know we're gonna talk about this, so if I were not, that's the distinction. But I would otherwise move approval of this item as per staff condition.
Motion and
I
a
actually
second.
had a quick question.
Sure, that's fine.
Along those same lines, didn't we have another one where they had to get approval for having 2 kitchens in the same building?
It would be under the same approval process, accessory dwelling units.
Oh, so it's all wrapped together? Or
Are you
like the
referring to another
second,
item?
no, this one, the fact that there's gonna be 2 kitchens?
Yes, because it's attached. It's attached to the house. So they're allowed a second kitchen because it's attached to the house. That's what,
I thought
that's.
we had another one where we had to approve the second kitchen, so I'm just.
But that was
making
detached.
sure.
That was detached.
Yeah.
That was detached?
Yeah, detached.
No, not the guest house, but anyway, that's okay. I'm mixing them all up. Thank you.
So many guest houses.
In a couple months, we'll do a update item on all the intricacies of accessory dwelling units and
Yeah.
guest houses.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're similar but different. If there are no more comments or questions, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're on to item 3B. For Melinda Francois, the applicant is seeking a conditional use grant approval to allow for a guest house on the property located at 2790 West Castle Lane. Is there a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are now in public hearing. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak on item 3B? Hearing and seeing none, is there a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're back. We can now take it up. Are there any questions for staff? Commissioner Chorin.
I'm assuming the architectural review board will review the details and the separations between the unit and what's stored below. I mean, I believe it's still going to be used for car storage below.
Well, the building inspector will do the plan review for the code safety issues that
Okay.
architectural review board will, the aesthetics of it.
Okay.
Any other comments or staff from any of the commissioners or questions? Or a motion perhaps?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any last comments or questions?
Does the applicant have a question? Or, okay, you're good? Okay.
I think they'd resolved not to speak unless there was a question. Yeah. That's okay. Yep. We have a motion and a second. Hearing no other questions, please call the roll. Keep staff on their toes.
Commissioner Bonney,
Aye.
Commissioner Chorin,
Aye.
Commissioner Hawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Aye.
Commissioner Stoker,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish.
Aye.
Mayor Nolan,
Aye.
vote passes.
Right, congratulations. Next up, we have a regular public hearing item for Parish Survey and Engineering LLC for Life Space Communities. The applicant is seeking a conditional use grant amendment and building site and plan amendment approval to allow for 14 carriage homes in 12 buildings for the property located at 12500 through 12700 North Port Washington Road. Is there a motion to go into public hearing?
So moved. Actually, I need to repeat myself.
Okay, well, so someone else will need to make the motion.
I will make that motion.
Let's say there's a motion
Second.
and a second. Okay. Is there any, all those in favor of going into public hearing, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are now in public hearing. Is there anyone here this evening who wishes to speak? Oh, we have one registered. Arthur Liebel of 1200 West Liebel Road. Please come to the podium.
Thanks, commissioners. Was just one thing was on June 26, 2023, the applicant had asked to allow for 13 carriage homes. Now it's asking for 14. I don't know, like between there and now, where did extra home become a possibility?
I can explain that.
Well, we'll get to it when we close public hearing. Yeah.
Because,
This is very procedural, but we just listen during public hearing. We don't comment. So,
then also I did furnish everybody with a little piece of paper with some very simple questions I think Jack and staff would be able to take care of, but my main thing was we went from 13 to 14 and I was not aware of that, that number yet. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else here this evening who wishes to speak on item 4A? Hearing and seeing none, is there a motion to close public hearing? Motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? And we're back into regular session, and maybe Jack will take it away. And
Yeah, I was wondering about that when he brought, I was confused when he said that to us. So I looked, we did some research and actually the card was for the last meeting was incorrect. It was 14 units. What happened was when it was, the PUD was amended back in April, they wanted 13 carriage homes and then they wanted 6 individual homes scattered throughout the site. That was the original plan. That was part of the concept plan of the PUD that was amended. When they came back for the building and site plan, they put off this issue of these other 6 properties and they went with just the carriage homes where they added the extra units where they had 14 units. So in 2023, when this was approved at the building and site plan, it was 14 units, but the card still had the old number from the previous PUD approval. That's where the confusion was.
oh, so the comment card that went out to the public
Yeah.
had a
that's
wrong
at
number, but
13,
the
the
packet
actual-
materials had the right number?
Yeah, the approval was for 14 and everything on the screen, and this is, I have it up on the screen right now. This is on page 53 in your packet if you want to look at your computer. Everything that was shown here is similar to what was approved back in 23. They did actually add the sidewalk on this plan on the east side of the road where it crosses over and then it ends up on the west side of the road for the cul-de-sac. They did that because there's just not enough space on the cul-de-sac on the east side to put that sidewalk in. They wanted the sidewalk on the east side because they want to avoid the impact of this very large specimen tree that's located here on this west side. So, other than that, the plan is exactly the same as was approved in 2013. They did send us an updated landscaping plan Wednesday, the day the packet went out, but we didn't have time to review it. I can kind of just go over some of the here. So there was a couple of landscaping conditions that were not addressed at the time they submitted, but they have addressed them since, which I haven't fully reviewed yet. But one of them, they showed all the proposed street trees along this location were all autumn blaze maple. We wanted a mixture of trees here. And they also shows Black Hill spruce kind of as a buffer to the backs of these carriage homes. We wanted different species in there. We've had some issues with Black Hill spruce over time, so we were asking for different species. They did update a plan to show both of those, but again, it was too late to get them in our packet. And the third condition was that they're supposed to provide some screening up in this area per the PUD to screen the property from Mr. Leibau's property to the east. So I'll review that plan once it's time to, and then we'll condition that approval based on tonight's action. So, but everything else is the same as was approved in 2023, and we do recommend approval according to the conditions of the report. Thank you.
It looks like there's a couple other concerns listed in the letter we received. I remember this coming up last time, confirmation of the setback.
Setbacks are compliant. I did check
Okay.
that.
I figured, otherwise, well, I remember from the last meeting, so I'm sure we would have checked, but, and then another one I know we deal with all the time, but it's ensuring the stormwater drainage is kept where it's supposed to be, and
That's cold. So
Coles, yeah.
And this one was actually already reviewed by us and a consultant for stormwater.
Okay, so we're good there as well. Okay, so the staff review of the landscaping plan when it is finalized, which is, I'm sure, a condition of the rule this evening.
yes, right.
Okay. Fantastic. Any other comments or questions from the commissioners? Alderman Parrish.
Thank you. At Common Council, we've been discussing the finance, just pilot agreements and park fees. So that's kind of been on my mind lately. Is this operation affiliated directly with the rest of Newcastle? I think it is,
They
right?
changed entity names, but the new entity is the whole thing is under one ownership. Yes.
Okay. So I think I guess, was there an issue with the pilot such that it's been over a year and they still weren't able to get it signed with the city? Or is there concern with that agreement, or did they just not get around?
I don't
starting
think
that
they did
discussion?
anything related to this approval. Once they got approved, they didn't really do any part of it. So
Okay,
there was no urgency to do anything since they were still not submitting anything for permits, so.
Okay.
Um,
And I see that that's in the list of conditions
Yes,
that
correct.
we're assuming that a pilot agreement would be.
yeah, there was an original pilot agreement for the first one, and I think that one either lapsed or something got languages kind of.
It was like 10 years
Yeah,
or so.
so we'll make sure that gets addressed.
Yeah, that was attached to it the last time it was before us.
So the original PUD
Yeah.
back in 2000,
Okay.
so.
Well, yeah, it was a pilot, then it wasn't a pilot because they were for profit, and it
Yeah,
was
that
transitioned back, but that condition got attached to this
To the new-
some number of
okay.
months ago when it first came
Got
before
it.
us.
Yes.
So, I mean, I'm assuming that will get all settled out by the time any construction breaks
Yeah, we
ground.
won't issue any permits until we have that pilot. agreement.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then these are just houses, right? There's no actual live there. There's not full-blown senior care in there.
Well, this is
They're
their
care-
entry
care
level,
houses.
Yeah.
entry level
Yeah.
So,
model, yeah.
so I guess I don't understand why this wouldn't also qualify for park impact fees. I just want to clarify if that should be part of the motion for approval. Since it's a residential dwelling unit.
I think it does qualify for park impact fee.
Does that need to be clarified in the motion?
You know,
Or is that-
you can add it to it. We would do it I mean, we don't normally put that in our motion for single family development, but if you want to build some standards, you could add that to
Yeah,
it.
I think
these
it's
aren't-
important that
Yeah.
the developer knows
Sure.
I mean, if they're not currently planning on that.
Yeah, we just don't normally put that with 1 and 2 family dwelling. We don't actually add that as condition.
Yeah, once it becomes assisted
Yeah.
living, then it's not
Okay.
applied.
So even though it's zoned IPS, the city knows to automatically
Yeah.
do the park
Yeah.
impact fee. Thank you.
Sure.
Excellent questions. Any other questions from the rest of the commission?
With that, I would move approval as written by staff recommendations.
Okay, or a motion? Is the motion now, there's a second. Any other comments or questions for staff or the applicant? Hearing and seeing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hawley,
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Aye.
Commissioner Barnes,
All right,
Commissioner Rabani,
Aye.
Commissioner Chorin,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Mayor Nervin.
Aye.
Vote passes.
All right, on to regular business. First up, TNT Fireworks. Applicant is seeking a minor request for temporary use for approval for a fireworks sale tent in the parking lot of the property located at 10906 through 11116 North Port Washington Road, otherwise known as the Mequon Pavilions. Quick overview from staff.
Yes, so this request is for a temporary use within the Brookstone Pavilions parking lot. It proposes placing a tent and a storage container within the pavilion's parking lot for the sale of fireworks. We did get 2 written letters from the public, which are included in the packet on page 94, and 2 phone calls objecting to the use, just put that out there. The tent would be 20 by 40. It would be located at the northern end of the Mequon Pavilions towards the west side of the parking lot, where it's shown on the screen here. It would occupy 10 parking spaces and be kind of located between Sierra and the tile shop in terms of proximity. There would also be a 20 by 8 storage container, which is also seen on that site plan. It's a little hard to make out because there's cars in the ortho photo, but that would occupy 2 parking spaces and would be used for storage of fireworks and overnight security. The applicant is proposing the tent to be up for 10 days total between June 26th and July 6th. And they propose operating between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. And 9 p.m. daily with 2 employees to staff the tent at all times. They did receive written permission from Brixmore, which is the landlord of the property, to locate the tent anywhere within the parking lot. They ultimately chose this location because they found it would be the best position for space and for safety. And the applicant did also contact the fire department already to discuss the use and proposes placing a safety barrier at the entrance of the tent to make sure that customers coming in and out have a safe entry. In the past, temporary uses of this sort have been recommended to be located indoors in empty storefronts within the space. That kind of provides a more secure location for the merchandise. It doesn't disrupt parking, a little easier for people to maneuver through the space. Staff did do a site visit to confirm that there are empty storefronts on site. There's one to the north of Sierra, kind of nearby to where the outdoor location is being proposed. And there's also one next to Hearing Life and next to the European Wax Center. On page 96 of the packet, there is a site plan that lays out where those empty storefront locations are, just for reference. There was also some back and forth between fire chief and the applicant and the city attorney about the legality of selling fireworks in the city of Mequon. There is a section of the code that restricts the sale and use of fireworks in Mequon. But after some discussion with the fire chief and applicant, there is also a section of the code, section 3071 to A through N, that lists all of the terms that are not included under the description of fireworks. So that is what the applicant would be selling. So according to the city attorney's determination, what's being sold is legal. So staff is recommending approval based on the condition that the applicant locate the use within an empty storefront, because that's what we've done in the past, and a little safer in terms of people going in and out. We are also adding a condition that the applicant certify with the fire department before starting the temporary use that they are complying with that section of the code, which lays out what qualifies as legal in the city of Mequon. We also prepared an alternative recommendation if the commission moves to allow the fireworks to be outside in the tent. So there are conditions listed for that as well.
Thank you for the overview. Yeah, this is an education for me. Not all fireworks are fireworks. These are like the low-grade fireworks, the amusement kind, not the real crowd pleasers. It was a little hard to follow, but I think I'm following the ball on it now. Any questions from the commission? Commissioner Chorin?
When the vacant stores were offered, what was their reaction?
I discussed it with the applicant kind of early on in the process when we were trying to figure this out. Just because that's what has been done in these kind of circumstances before. And I think the applicant wasn't aware if there were any on site, so that was kind of staff's way of ensuring that there is a possibility to locate there. Another condition we added is that Brixmor would of course have to confirm that that's, all right by them and that they're okay with them occupying that space for 10 days.
I guess, did the fire chief offer any opinions on where's the best location from a fire safety point of view? I think I know the answer based off of, I'll be honest, I was a victim of an apartment fire. That wasn't fireworks, but a lady fell asleep smoking a cigarette, and that's no fun to get out of a burning building. But it would seem there's a little more risk putting it inside as opposed to just storing it in the parking lot. And I guess if someone steals their stuff, I'd rather them make an insurance claim and their insurance company and get that money back than take down the pavilions with it. But if there was a fire, but that's just me. I'm happy to hear other opinions.
Yeah, we didn't receive specific direction as to what, the fire department would necessarily prefer. I think they're going to check on the setup regardless of what the commission.
Yeah, the chief's very good about not wanting to sway an outcome. He'll just be prepared for whatever is put in front of him, maybe to a fault sometimes, but we have this conversation about the driveways that should be widened too. Like, fire department needs to get in, we'll find a way in. Like, it doesn't matter to chief, even though we have code set aside just for him. Does anyone else have any comments or questions? Commissioner Shaper?
We went.
You can just kind of like to make
Yeah,
a statement.
Sure, go ahead.
A few questions I'm sure you guys have got. Just to speak to like the safety of it. So the types that we're using are all ground-based, safe and sane fireworks, or we sometimes call them family-friendly fireworks. So by the state definition, they're not actually fireworks. But I'm with you on, Wisconsin's a weird state where technically if it goes up or blows up, it's illegal, but we can go 15 minutes in any direction, find a store and buy them. So one of the reasons why we're, coming out to, I guess, lobby here is, that, it does offer the community the alternative. It's not going to get everyone. You're still going to see and hear it on the 4th of July. It's not going to be me, so don't blame me. But it does offer the community the legal version because they're not only legal to purchase, they're legal to use. From a safety standpoint, 100% a fire in a storage container in the parking lot is going to be a lot better than a fire inside of a place. I do know that Brixmor, all of them are sprinklered.
And they, just from what I know with Brixmor, we have over 300 some locations with them. They're always up to date on that stuff. So we'll have sprinklers inside the building. If I could say, the main points for doing the tent outside, biggest thing is visibility. The way that our program kind of works is our operators keep 20% of the sales of the tent. The lady who's running this one, she also does one in West Milwaukee. I have about 70 locations, all outside tents across Iowa, Wisconsin, and Illinois. And she's been doing this for 9 years now, I think. And it would obviously help her sales because people see it a lot more. She's an MPS teacher, a special needs teacher with MPS, so she uses that money between the tents for, throughout the year. Also, I have fully paid for the tent already, so that would really help. But I just think that from a visibility standpoint, it's just so much easier for people. Like, yes, we will have people and they have a banner that would be allowed for us to be up if we're inside the store. But I think that it's still, I've done some inlines over the years. They're kind of hit or miss on things. So a tent just overall is just a lot better for us. And I did speak to the fire chief just to make sure that a lot of every time when it's a new area, they have the same questions. We just opened one up in Burlington and went through a similar process that I can provide them the invoice too, and they're going to come out and inspect everything too, just to assure you that everything is 100% legal within the city and the state. So.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the rest of the commission? Mr. Hawley.
Are you concerned with like people stealing the stuff overnight? I mean, that location is right off 43. It's very high traffic, and obviously you're not going to take everything out of the tent and put it in a storage unit overnight and put it back, right?
We do that.
So everything.
Not everything. I mean, the tables will stay. That type of stuff. I mean, this is my 12th year. I've had a table on top of the tent from someone, but never stolen from the tent. And if they do, that's obviously our problem.
Okay.
They will remove all the product and that'll be locked up. And the way that the containers are, so it's your standard, it's a steel storage container. So where the locks lock underneath, there's about an inch thick of steel that the lock goes under, so it can't be cut. I mean, really the only way to get into them is if you'd have to take a torch and sit out there for a while, which I hope someone wouldn't. And again, if someone's going to go through that trouble at 2 a.m. to do that, that's our problem as well. And that's what we have insurance for. But I've had 0 issues with breaking into the container in any of these areas. And this person in particular, she runs West Milwaukee, and I want to speak out of place, but it's a much more dangerous area, and she has the same container, same company that we use over there.
I lived in West Milwaukee for a year. I can attest to that.
Good volume, but
They went at it with a torch. They would ruin everything they were gonna steal anyway.
Yeah.
exactly. And it's like,
Yeah.
believe it or not, people walk in with cigarettes to the tent all the
Fun
time.
fact,
It's
the
like,
village of Shorrock used to be the village of East Milwaukee. For you Milwaukee history buffs, yes. Sorry, not really related. Just wanted to show off my knowledge. Much nicer than West Milwaukee. Any other questions from the commission? Or is there we have to reconcile a recommendation for outdoors or indoors? Maybe by show of hands, in a straw poll fashion, what is people's preference, indoor or outdoor? I'll call outdoor first. 1, 2, that looks like a majority. How about indoor, just so that it counts official? 1, maybe a second who abstained at the end. 1 abstain, 1 indoor, rest outdoor. Okay. I certainly think from a fire safety standpoint, it's safer outdoors, although I do appreciate the sprinkler system comment. I had kind of forgotten about sprinkler systems because I don't have one in my house, but that's the great equalizer, but it's still safer. Having lived through the Great Department Fire of 2000, wouldn't wish anyone had to repeat that. Any other questions or a motion
I would
in
make
line? Commissioner Barnes.
Yeah, just, I have to remain abstained on either of those objectives, because frankly, I come in with a I appreciate your independent business and so forth and short-term, setup, et cetera, but I have a fundamental concern with fireworks or equivalent, appearance in the public and a little bit in the interpretation from our legal folks, though I understand how that is. So I just cannot support that use in general.
That's
No, I didn't
more
ask you
like
if
a
you
no
supported.
vote
I
than an
asked you if you
abstain.
supported the location of it, if it were to be here. Those are two different questions. You can still vote against it.
And I'm against.
That's fine.
I'm gonna make a motion.
Just to clarify that, the position.
Just to comment before we make a motion, if this is going the alternative recommendation route, it should have been included in the packet, but there was a picture of the tent and staff would just recommend that signage and flags not be allowed on the tent itself, that there instead just be a banner where it's located within the site plan on the screen, to kind of, make it a little more visually appealing and.
You in agreement with that?
Yeah.
So we also have a couple options, just for fire typically wants 2 exits clearly labeled. If we don't have anything on the tent like we normally put up, then anyone can walk in from 360 degrees. Then it kind of makes it difficult to make a safety barrier for people to come in. So we would for sure want something on the outside. We have, I mean, if you're looking for, not something with our logo, we have like a wrap that's just red, white, and blue. It doesn't say anything on it. Just red, white, and blue, and they would just go on the outer perimeter, just so that people can clearly state like, this is where you're entering and exiting.
Oh, for pedestrian control.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't
That would
think
be
we're
good.
objecting to that at all. I think the picture of the tent they submitted was not in keeping with Mequon's aesthetic, requirements. It had large flags on it and it was very, very kind of,
Okay, so
it was like which you would think for a fireworks tent, basically. We just want to tone it down.
any tent in a parking lot will get a lot of attention in Mequon because it's rather uncommon.
I hear about it.
Yeah, we'll take whatever down, or like I said, we just bungee it, so it's all temporary stuff. So if it needs to come down, what we do is we typically, once we're all ready for everything, then we call the fire department so that they can see everything at once. Just only have to make one trip out there and then,
There's no logos affixed to the tent?
no.
It's just a red and white-ish
this is-
tent?
So since there's no picture in the packet? Or did I miss it?
Did I put it in the packet?
Okay, maybe along with the fire department visit, just someone from community development to check on if someone wants to make a motion with that amendment in it. Someone from community development, just go over and look at the signage and make sure it's in spirit with the general discussion we had here tonight. That's
Yeah.
probably all we need. It's gonna be up, it'll be gone in 10 days and we'll forget we ever even did it a year later. When we get asked again.
Next year. I'm ready to make a motion, but I keep trying, and then if there's other questions.
That's okay.
I'll wait.
Make a motion and we can keep talking.
Okay, I'm going to move approval of the alternative recommendation. Per staff's recommendations with the addition that once the site is set up and ready to go, that we give staff yet another tour to do and hopefully just a quick visit to make sure that everything is copacetic. And the tent looks as expected.
Second.
Motion in a second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hawley.
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer.
Hi.
Commissioner Stoker.
Aye.
Commissioner Chorin.
Aye.
Commissioner Urbani.
Aye.
Commissioner Barnes.
No,
Alderman Parrish.
No.
Mayor Nervin.
Aye.
Vote passes 6-2.
All right.
Yeah, there is a fire extinguisher and chemical and water cannons and stuff. So any fires we can handle.
Awesome. Yeah. Good luck. Thank you. Next up, we have MT Trails Foundation. The applicant is seeking a minor request approval for a specimen tree removal of one 14-inch black walnut tree located in the right of way immediately south of 4124 West Highland Road.
Very quick.
Congratulations, Cole.
Yes.
Is this your one item you stayed for tonight?
Yes.
All right.
So, Energy Trails, for those not aware, this is a trail spur from the OIT to Rotary Park that's proposed by a nonprofit grant funding project. They're going through design right now. They encountered a area along the project that they encountered a specimen tree that they were initially going to avoid to the north with their proposed trail. However, they needed some private property easements by putting the trail north of the tree. They found out that they could not easily obtain these easements due to some liens on the property and things like this. So what they're proposing is to relocate that path, and it is now in conflict with that tree. It's a 14-inch black walnut tree. If you have any questions regarding the tree itself, the city forester Nate is here. And I think much overviews it.
Any questions from the commission? Commissioner Barnes?
You stated that the tree couldn't be, pardon my words, but something to the effect of couldn't be easily relocated or moved or arranged. I guess my question is there a problem with the schedule, the hoped for schedule for the building of this and the time that the added time that it would take to get an easement set up so that the tree can be retained?
We didn't put all the details in the packet. I can certainly give you those after if you're interested. It's nothing having to do with the timeline or anything like that. It's more having to do with the legality of having, like, DOT would have to, and the owner would have to pay for these easements, these temporary or permanent easements, and the property owner has some liens on the property, and it was going to be
It's a legal morass.
yes, right.
So it's simply a legal morass with a desire to get the project underway, and I'm not questioning the project or anything like that. It's the time frame allowance.
Yeah, I think they're not bidding until later this fall, so it's not really a scheduling issue. It's more of the legality issue.
And so with the DOT involved on it, could its legal group get involved or its real estate folks?
I will leave that to the applicant, I guess, Dan.
We spent a few hours over the last weeks trying to resolve this issue because the trail was originally designed to go around the tree. But because there's a berm that we had to cut out, we needed to do a easement on that property. And because there's so many judgments against that property, over $60,000 plus a divorce issue, the DOT, we had them on the phone for about an hour a few weeks ago, trying to resolve this, and they said, you're never gonna get this PLE done, because we wanna put the trail in next spring. We wanna cut contracts in August of this year. And they said, this trail's not gonna happen unless you get rid of that TLE and you move the trail. And unfortunately, the tree is the only thing that has to go to make it happen.
And I guess that kind of leads to my other question. I didn't go and look at the site or study it too closely, but I was just wondering if there was any alternative alignment.
More room someplace.
Yeah,
Yeah, the
in
problem
order
is
to pass through maybe next. I understand what we're doing, you not next to curb, but that it's.
What
the
we have
general-
is,
in order to keep the tree.
Right, we have 50 feet from the city center line road
Mm-hmm.
to our city right away. Take away part of the road, ditch, you're left with 20 or 30 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And to get around the tree, we have to go pretty close to the city right away, the 50-foot line.
Rather
But that's
than
where
on
the
the
berm-
inside.
Rather, if we go on the inside where there's not enough room between the tree and the road.
And how, I mean, sorry to get detail here, but I mean, I know it can be done where I'll call it fitting the walkway between, or the trail between the curb and the tree in this case.
We'd almost have to split the trail down the middle to do it, but the DOT, Wisconsin DOT, that our trail grant requires a 10-foot wide trail.
Mhm.
We have 2-foot shoulders, that's 14 feet wide.
Yeah.
After going through all the engineering and paying for the engineering to have it done to save the tree, now we had to re-engineer it, so the trail doesn't happen.
I'm just thinking with a raised curb and 14-foot or
No.
10-foot curb.
So we are
Yeah.
considering approving the removal of the tree, but in exchange, they will replace it with several trees equivalent to 75% of the diameter of the tree at chest height. So we're getting several trees in return for the tree we're having removed.
We don't want to remove the tree either, it's just a necessity.
And I'm trying to play public understanding function here, as I ultimately would.
So you'll get more trees, the smaller.
I think that making that point to the public in some way maybe.
Well, it's written in the packet. It's per our specimen tree removal policy.
I mean,
It's by the book of the policy. So similar, they could make a cash donation, but they've chosen to plant trees, which is even better in my mind.
I mean, I think I'm the biggest Lorax on this whole mission. Like, I always want to save the trees, and in this case, I feel like that's a fairly significant stretch of property with a single tree that's going to be sacrificed, frankly, for this public good with additional trees planted. To me, that's it's reasonable.
All right.
Is that a motion?
That sounds like a
I can't
excellent segue
in
to a
good
motion.
faith motion to kill the tree, but I will, somebody else can do it.
Motion to approve per
Yeah,
staff
John is in favor.
recommendation.
Got it.
Oh,
I have no problem.
today on Moral Dilemma, starring. Oh, is that a motion? and a
That was a
second?
motion.
Yeah.
There's a motion and a second. I totally missed him. Thank you.
I got it.
You got him? Okay, that's all. Just need to have them recorded. Any further comments from the commission? Questions?
One comment. I think the species should be taken into consideration as well. The black walnut emits a poison through the ground around which nothing else can grow. And it drops those horrible things. It would be all over whatever bike trail you try to put around it. And they make a mess. So in this case, I'm in favor of planting a tree.
And they make an excellent bar top if you want to visit my basement sometime.
Beautiful, yes, beautiful.
So hopefully someone will do something cool with the tree, I'm sure. Okay, we have a motion and a second. I think we're done with commenting. Please call the roll.
Commissioner Holly,
Aye.
Commissioner Schaefer,
Aye.
Commissioner Barnes,
All right.
Commissioner Bonney,
Aye.
Commissioner Troy,
Aye.
Commissioner Stoker,
Aye.
Alderman Parrish,
Aye.
Mayor Durbin.
In memory of Alderwoman Pam Adams, I'll vote no, knowing that it'll also pass.
The vote does pass,
Both pass.
7-0.
That's the second time I've voted against tree removal just for her, even though it was gonna go through anyway. Congratulations, looking forward to seeing the path being constructed. All right, we have just one item left, Ware Design Build. Applicant is seeking a consultation for a 14-unit condominium for the properties located at 5117 West Donges Bay Road. The Donges Cove, otherwise known as currently Taylor and Dunn's building. For those who know geography better than maps. Staff overview.
Yeah, so this request is for a consultation for a condominium development at the southwest corner of Donges Bay Road and North Cedarburg Road. It would include the assemblage of 3 properties, which are currently zoned neighborhood commercial and altogether are 5.93 acres in total. The request would require either rezoning the site to R6 or going the route of the text amendment to change the current language within the neighborhood commercial zoning district. The site plan, which is on the screen, proposes 14 buildings with 2 units per building, which would be 28 units total. It currently meets the setback and offset requirements from the ultimate right of way, and access is shown from a single access point on Donges Bay Road, which staff is supportive of. There are also 3 specimen trees on this site currently that are central. City Forester did a site visit and noted those. Preserving them would be possible, but it might be difficult given this current arrangement plan. In either case, of a text amendment or of a rezoning, staff would recommend that the baseline density for the units follow R6 standards, which requires no more than 4 units per acre. So this current plan is a bit over that. It's roughly 4.72 units per acre. We've already discussed this with the applicant, and they've expressed willingness to be flexible in the layout and number of units. So in order to keep with that R6 density requirement, they would need to remove 5 units, and considering that these are 2-unit family land condos, that would mean removing 3 buildings and a total of 6 units to meet that R6 density standard. That would allow the project to stay in compliance with density, and staff also believes that it would bring additional aesthetic and amenity benefits, which are listed in the report, but just to throw them out there, need a larger buffer from the intersection, potentially being able to preserve the specimen trees, larger front and back lawn spaces. Some of the current buildings are a little cramped with the 14 building proposed layout. In terms of rezoning or going the route of a text amendment, staff recommends that the text amendment approach be taken. That would mean adding language to the neighborhood commercial zoning district. We would recommend that we add 2 family residential developments as conditional within the neighborhood commercial zoning language. Currently, there is some other residential uses that are allowed, and single family residential clusters are allowed. So this would be adding the addition of 2 family residential clusters as allowed. And this route over the rezoning route, staff finds would be more straightforward and allow the project to meet both the city and the developer's objectives. The building design that is on page 138 through 140 of the packet. Those are some previous examples of condos that the applicant has undertaken. They're more contemporary than some of the existing residential flex developments within the city, which are typically a little more traditional in design, but the neighborhood commercial district nor any residential zoning district in the city restricts necessarily any architectural style. And there's been some similar residential developments that have been approved in this more modern design when they've gone to architectural board. So staff doesn't object to the current proposed design. Overall, staff is supportive of the project with the notion that we would go the text amendment route to the neighborhood commercial zoning code and make sure that the density meet those R6 standards. And overall, staff is supportive of redevelopment of these parcels.
Thank you. So it's just a consultation, right? So we're not voting on anything, but it's a great time to give feedback so that when they come back later, there's fewer, perhaps, hopefully no surprises. Commissioner Parrish.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for considering investing in our community. I've had a couple of residents actually reach out to me in favor of this project, hoping, essentially demanding the product type. We don't see enough condo town homes being built. Just a couple of quick questions for you. It looks like you're planning on removing the curb cut off of Cedarburg Road. And the site plan I'm looking at only has one.
Yes.
Okay, so that would leave one ingress and egress point. So I think just, we'll need to check with the fire department, all that good
Gone
stuff.
through all that.
Okay.
We're not allowed, they don't want any more curb cut. They don't want any more access on Cedarburg Road. So Donges Bay Road is one in and out.
Okay.
I believe staff talked to the fire department.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tight site, so fire department should look closely at the layout. Perhaps if we have fewer units, the issue will resolve itself on its own.
We jump into that layout, the site
Sure.
layout you're looking at there is really conceptual. We don't like the look of that. It's just,
No worries.
uniform. We want to play with that.
It's a density concept.
Yeah.
Yep. I guess as far as the way they appear, I understand that you're trying to get more of a modern flair to it, but I'd prefer, you have a lot of pitched or sloped roofs instead of like a pitch, like a normal house. So,
That's the whole point. We're trying to be different.
yeah. Yeah, I don't want to be too critical. I mean, I appreciate the investment and maybe look at some alternative concepts. And we have an architect on the
Yes.
planning commission who might weigh in on it as well.
If we do that, it'll look like everything else.
That's
kind of.
That's not, it is next. Okay. I guess my issue is more, not an issue, but I'm wondering about staff's recommendation about amending the code to allow this as a conditional use versus a rezone altogether. Normally I'd actually be the opposite. Normally I like to see like, all right, neighborhood commercial, and it's all neighborhood commercial on the land use map. But in here, I think, we had a vision for neighborhood commercial. I'm not opposed to this development at all. I want this development to happen. But if you open up the door for this to be a conditional use for every other development in this district that's neighborhood commercial, there really won't be a basis to say no as a conditional use. And so if we're kind of getting away from that vision, that's one thing. But we did put a lot of work into the neighborhood commercial district. And, on the flip side, there's been no success getting commercial developed there, partially because of utilities and the cost of redeveloping. So it's kind of an interesting zoning discussion. I would prefer to have it just rezone it all together, even though it'll look like spot zoning on a map. That's the reason not to do it, but that's what I would have preferred. And
If we were to go through the rezoning, Brian, would we be able to add more, would we be able to get more units on there? And I'm not saying 14, but could we get 12?
No, either way, the R6, we're using the R6 standard for this. So if you went the rezoning method, you use the R6 for units an acre. The neighborhood commercial amendment would refer back to the R6 for the density standard anyway. So either way you go, you'd still be at the 4 units.
Okay.
I guess I can address your question a little bit. The neighborhood commercial zoning district was meant to be somewhat of a mixed use kind of neighborhood, but not like town center mixed use, but there are other use, single families allowed in that zoning district as well. And I believe there's senior housing allowed. So we always anticipated there'd be a mix of residential and commercial in there. So we just feel that allowing the 2-family would open the door up for a different type of product out there. But I don't know. I mean, in some areas you might see more additional 2-family, like even like the Silverus site or the City site would make a good side-by-side development. So I think.
But you also don't want it to all become these townhomes,
Right.
and then you have one commercial building.
Yeah, I get
That's a possibility here too. So
Yeah,
like, what do we really want? But I don't feel
I can
this
see
is an
both sides.
interesting discussion. Or
Yeah, I can see both sides.
still favor of it. We're not voting tonight. We're just
Right.
giving feedback.
And if
That was all my commentary. So listen to my
project-
colleagues.
No, it's an interesting question to
I know you
pose.
guys don't care,
Yeah.
but the project doesn't, I don't think it works with the current numbers. So that's our problem.
Sure. We run into a lot of precedent issues.
Yep.
So if we say yes to you,
Mr. Barnes.
Yeah, I very simply, I was very pleased and impressed to see what was being proposed here. Living over in that quadrant of the city and knowing what's there is, et cetera.
Yeah.
I think it would be very, very good. I'm impressed and pleased with the architecture or some rendering or, some version of that, not wild, but I don't view what you presented as wild. And I think the access point and all that stuff makes complete sense to me. So I guess I would see this as a real benefit for the city in a number of different ways. And for that particular site. Just one little clarification, staff, and I assume with the exhibit that we've got, the one with the streets that goes the red areas, we're just talking about southwest quadrant of the intersection. Is that correct?
Gold black.
Where the corresponding, with black line around it.
Yep.
But what is thought is to make the other uses habitable use, or just maybe a clarification on that.
Well, no, staff proposed doing a text amendment to the neighborhood commercial zoning to allow it to be in there, but other things could always be around it.
Okay.
But, Alderman Parrish had a slightly different approach of rezoning it, so I guess either is a valid way to bring this forward, and maybe it should get a little more discussion internally, but I think we're not, whether the mechanism to make it possible is one thing. They're here for the consultation on this particular type of use, so there's a couple different ways to go get downtown on that, but.
And I guess my biggest statement is I wouldn't hold a question or objection even to the big plan. So that.
I guess
So.
along the lines of number of units, I was gonna ask staff, are there any TDR credits left floating around?
One, I believe is out there.
Okay, so there's a single TDR credit, so probably don't know what this is, transfer of development rights. So someone donated land at some point in time and created these credits. And they're good to have you can get it's like a free beer at the bar. You can get another developmental unit inside your project for the density, so it's a little fancier version than that little plastic free beer chip, but,
They would allow them to round up to that next.
yeah, you could get one more unit and,
More building, 'cause you
but,
already-
well, you get a whole new building, cause yeah.
Taking the half.
So there's some poor guy out there who owns one of these TDR credits that might be willing to part with it.
I would find out who that is.
I think Jack
Yeah, I
knows.
know.
He knows who he is, yeah.
He reminds us all the time that he has it.
Oh, and I've advocated plenty of times for us to use them because we said we wanted this program, and then every time we go to use it, it's a fight to use them. And I think it's actually a good program because you get wide open spaces and you trade a little extra density on one project for wide open spaces somewhere else. It's actually not a bad thing, but.
One last tiny detail put in the to-do list with what I'm favoring for you. And for the use, traffic side of things with the signal, I believe it's an existing protected permitted left turn already. But it may require a little bit, just when it gets built, et cetera, some timing adjustments so that it's accommodating what will be, more turns coming from the south, which is not a big deal, but it can easily be overlooked after
And the,
this with public.
yeah, that's a good comment. The signal is counties, or is it ours?
That's the state.
The state?
Is that, I think it's a DOT.
DOT, yes.
Okay.
So it's just, I wouldn't anticipate there being any issue at all, but just to do maybe part of it. Particularly its occupancy,
Yeah.
not even construction.
I figured I'd bring up the last TDR credit because yeah, it's like a 2-for-1 with your scenario. You need one more unit, but then you get a whole building. Because you're kind of at that one unit short, and I think the guy with the TDR credit would love to probably get rid of it. I mean, he'll want money. I'm just letting you know, but it might be the thing that breaks it loose. And I think it'd clean up a otherwise kind of blighted corner and look really nice. Even with the modern architecture. I mean, some people are into that, some people aren't. Alderman Parrish might not move in, but my son might someday.
Am I qualified to weigh in?
Yeah, the architecture thing, we fought about the Medi Spa, and now that it's up, it looks really, really good. So
I agree.
I'll probably send that guy a apology. I did joke about him with it at the grand opening. He was okay with, he didn't mind much. Commissioner Holly.
I'm recalling that we had a development moratorium in that area that has been lifted, correct?
Oh, yeah, it was lifted while we did the rezoning for
Okay.
neighborhood commercial, yeah.
Making sure, and I think this is perfect for that site. I think it's gonna be great. I'm happy something is happening. So that
Thank you.
all time.
All right. Any feedback? Last feedback. All right. Well, hopefully you got what you need.
Yep.
You got a tip on an extra development unit, maybe?
Yep.
Cool. All right. Anything else?
No, not
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, we have just our update on our calendar. So next meeting, Monday, July 28th. 6 o'clock. I believe we'll have the month of August off, which is tradition for the planning commission, so one last meeting till we get a month off of vacation from these duties. And that just leaves us with one motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thanks, everyone.